Welcome to Philosophy and Critical Thinking, the basics. In our last video, we talked about what makes arguments valid and invalid. In this video, we're going to be talking about what makes arguments sound and unsound. A sound argument is a valid argument with all the premises being true. So this is an argument where if all the premises are true, then the conclusion has to be true, but also all the premises used are actually true. So an unsound argument can fall into three categories. One unsound argument is an invalid argument. If the argument is invalid, then the argument is unsound. Or a valid argument with at least one premise being false. If any of the premises are false in a valid argument, the argument is unsound. Or an invalid argument with at least one premise being false. That's definitely unsound. So, in order for an argument to be sound, it has to be both valid and all of the premises being true. So, going back to our original argument that we've been looking at in the last few videos, all humans will eventually die, I am human, therefore I'll eventually die, we can now see whether it is sound or unsound. We do know that it's valid from our previous video because we've established that we cannot say that the conclusion could be false if the premises are true that all humans will eventually die and that I'm human. So we know it's valid. So all we have to do now is check whether the premises are true. All humans will eventually die. That's correct, that's true as far as we know. The second premise, I am human, that is true. So we have a sound argument. We know it's valid, and we know that the two premises used are also true. Let's look at the next argument here. Only Labradors are canines. Pugs are not Labradors. Therefore, pugs are not canines. So let's see if this argument's valid. If it's true that only Labradors are canines, which is to say that if you are not a Labrador, you cannot be a canine, because only Labradors are canines. Next premise, pugs are not Labradors. So since pugs are not Labradors, and only Labradors can be canines, it would have to be the case that pugs are not canines. So the argument's valid. Let's look at the premises. Premise 2 first. Pugs are not Labradors. That's true. They're not. What about premise 1? Only Labradors are canines. Now this isn't true, because as we all know, there's lots of different breeds of dogs out there that are canines. All dogs are canines. So, since we have a false premise, the argument is unsound. So, what does soundness tell us? A sound argument is when, if all the premises are true, then the conclusion has to be true. So if the premises are true and the argument's valid, then it has to be the case that the conclusion is true. So a sound argument means you get to know the conclusion. You can know the conclusion is true because it's based on a sound argument. Whereas an unsound argument, we cannot know the truth of the conclusion. Either it's invalid, where even if all the premises are true, the conclusion could be false, or one of the reasons or one of the premises supporting the argument isn't true. So we don't have the grounds to know the truth of the conclusion. It's got to be careful here, though, that not to assume because an argument is unsound that the conclusion is false. There is a way we can do that, whereas there's different ways we can tell whether a conclusion is false, and that will be discussed in later videos. But all we can say about an unsound argument is that we cannot know the truth of the conclusion. If you want more information, you can go onto the website www.philosophycriticalthinking.com with some test questions there to try and see how you've got the soundness topic under control. Or you can purchase the book Understanding Arguments by Walter Sinnott Armstrong and Robert Fogelin. The next video, we're going to be talking about how arguments can go wrong, and these are called fallacies, but we're going to focus on 2 ways they can go wrong, which is circular reasoning and begging the question. If you want to stay tuned to these upcoming videos, please subscribe and click the bell. Thanks.